early childhood period of a child's life is where the foundation for lifelong learning and success is laid. As children grow through this period, it is crucial for caregivers and educators to observe, assess, and document their progress along the way, according to NAEYC 2020, thus ensuring the effectiveness of their initiatives and approaches to scaffolding them. In light of this, time sampling is a child observation tool used to collect brief data on the child's doings for a specific period. We, the Andromeda Early Years professionals, in our usual attempt to develop and highlight qualitative pedagogical tools for early years practitioners, have embarked on studying the underpinnings of time sampling. Our study concluded that while time sampling is the preferred tool when considering timeliness and paper trail, it falters in its effectiveness to authentically articulate children's actions and behaviors, based on findings from Child Care Network 2010. We, the Andromeda Galaxy Early Years professionals, realizing the importance of authentic assessment tools for children of early years, embark on a mission to measure and evaluate the effectiveness of time sampling as an early childhood observation tool, transform the time sampling tool into a comprehensive instrument that garners crucial information about children's actions and interactions, and establish an improved time sampling tool that provides adequate data for early years practitioners to enhance their approaches and interventions. Our team, which includes trailblazing early years professionals like Dawvier Gumbs, Sattee Singh, Cindy Hope-Lawrence, and myself, Jacqueline Molina, have prepared this presentation for all practitioners in the early childhood care and education field to not only inform themselves, but more so to make appropriate choices in their approaches to observing and assessing young children.
According to this time sampling form, Alan is being observed, and at 11:30, in the class area, I'm seeing that Alan sits at a desk looking at a book. Ashley approaches him and takes the book from him. Alan submissively allows Ashley to take the book. But this don't make no sense. In that short space of time, what could anyone really conclude about a child? So many important and rare behaviors can be missed. Oh my God. And it's very unfair to this child because the conclusion is based on insufficient, inaccurate information. This observational method needs improvement. Limitations of time sampling. Underestimates a child's behavior. A child may engross in a behavior throughout an interval but stop right before the end of the interval. Therefore, this method will underestimate a child's behavior, and the information recorded will not be a true reflection of the child's behavior. Just because the observer did not see the behavior happening during that time of recording does not mean that a child did not demonstrate that specific behavior. Records no details about the nature of play. Unfortunately, the observer writes down what is happening at the moment, but there is no comprehensive information being recorded about the child. Children are active learners who learn through play, but there is no one strategy that can be used to teach all children. As such, the information gathered will not be sufficient to plan effective activities or document a child's developmental progress. Since this observational tool does not include detailed recording about the nature of play, important information may be excluded about the child. Information that could have been useful to the child's holistic growth and development. Conclusions about the child's behavior is based on incomplete information. That is another limitation of time sampling. This method only allows the observer to record for a very brief period of time in each interval. The information gathered from the use of time sampling will reflect very little about a child's behavior. This observational tool starts off with the collection of insufficient information about the behavior and interaction of the child with others. Since the context of the behavior is not documented and there is no focus on the causes and consequences of the behavior, the conclusion about the child's behavior will also be inaccurate and incomplete.
When using traditional time sampling, the objective is to identify the duration of a specific behavior, such as the social behavior of young children. However, one disadvantage is that sometimes when the behavior occurs, the event is not recorded because it falls in between the time intervals that are recorded. Consequently, the results obtained would be only an estimated value. According to Sharp et al., more accurate estimates for the duration of the observed behavior could be obtained if shorter times between observation intervals were used, as well as longer times for each observation session and more time for the duration of the specified behavior. This, however, would be very time-consuming. Therefore, since time sampling is used to obtain the frequency of a specific behavior, example, Alan was observed for 30 seconds every 15 minutes for a 2-hour period. An improvement that could be done in addition to time sampling would be to observe when the specified behavior occurs and record what happens during the entire length of the behavioral event.
What book are you reading? I'm reading The Three Little Pigs.
Table 1 shows the record for the original time sampling tool. As seen, Alan spent a lot of time on his own, watching the other children playing, but did not engage in play activities with them. He made eye contact with other children, but did not speak to them and displayed submissive behavior. And it was concluded that Alan appears isolated because he does not speak to other children or to the adults around him. But the results were seen as inconclusive, and further observation would be needed to identify periods where Alan speaks or socializes with others. In Table 2, however, the results are shown with the improvement made to the time sampling tool. Alan was observed at 9:37, which is outside of the original time sampling interval, fidgeting with his hands when the teacher spoke to him, which may indicate that he is uncomfortable interacting with adults. But although Alan spent a lot of time off on his own, there were times when other children, like Jamie, approached him and he was willing to socialize. And he also made eye contact and smiled with some of the children. Additionally, it was shown that Alan does talk, as seen in the video clip. At 11:33, which is also outside of the original time interval, he responded clearly to a question asked by Ashley, which indicated that he both heard and understood what was going on around him. These results give a much more comprehensive observation of Alan's social interactions with others. It was also concluded that Alan shows no indication of hearing defects. He appears willing to interact, though timid to approach other children. The improvements made to the time sampling observation tool proved useful as it provided a more complete record of Alan's behavior. Despite this, further observations were suggested to monitor Alan to ensure that his social skills continue to develop and that they do not remain so isolated. In an early childhood setting, knowing this information would be vital to Alan's growth, since, as Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development suggests, children are active learners, having to explore and manipulate their environment to acquire knowledge, which they store, organize, and retrieve when needed. Additionally, students work in groups to solve problems and complete activities which require social skills. Furthermore, Vygotsky's sociocultural theory states that not only is learning active, but also child-centered, and development is dependent on social interactions.
The context in which the improved observational tool would be used. The assessment tool used in the initial phase was a time sampling tool. However, as seen above, the use of the time sampling tool was not sufficient in gathering the information one would need to conclude and gather data on a specific child's behaviors. The original time sampling form has the headings time, setting, persons present, observation, and language, while the upgraded form had the additions of interaction and speech or nonverbal communication. This revised tool would be used in addition to the time intervals, but would also include the behavioral interactions of the observer, peers, or anyone who may interact with the student throughout the time frame. This gives the observer a bit more information to work with and does not hinder the objectives of time sampling in no way. One would find that the information in the observed section says just what occurred, but does not give a true picture of what the child may be capable of, with the interactions of others being omitted. Guidelines for use of improved time sampling assessment form. In using the improved time sampling form, the following guidelines must be adhered to. 1. One student must be selected for observation of behaviors. 2. There must be an objective or reason for observing said child. 3. Student must be observed for a specific time period. 4. The exact actions, words, or behaviors must be written down as they are done. 5. In addition to the observations of the child, the interactions of others must be noted as well. And lastly, 6. Any speech or nonverbal communication that the student makes should be noted.
Now that we have measured and evaluated the effectiveness of time sampling as an early childhood observation tool, propose changes to transform the time sampling tool into a comprehensive instrument that garners crucial information about children's actions and interactions, and of course outlined how the revised tool can be used to provide adequate data for early years practitioners seeking to enrich their approaches and interventions. We, the Andromeda Galaxy Early Years professionals, now leave you with concrete examples for you to consider, rethink, and join us in revitalizing time sampling. We welcome any questions or comments you may have and encourage you to comment them below. Thank you for listening.